If you've ever felt like your brain works differently than everyone else's, and that difference feels exhausting in a traditional workplace, then this video is for you. Hi, my name is Summer Jelinek. I'm a keynote speaker and a leadership trainer, and I was late diagnosed with autism and ADHD. I'm also a corporate survivor. I've worked for the Walt Disney Company, HEB, and even a dude ranch. And now I help neurodivergent professionals thrive in a workplace that wasn't built for us. Welcome to the Neurospicy Workplace. So let's go ahead and start with the basics. The term neurodivergent was coined by activist Cassian Asumasu, and it was popularized by sociologist Judy Singer. Now, it describes people whose brains function differently than what society considers typical. So this can include autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, OCD, Tourette's, and even being left-handed. Some of these are medical diagnoses, and some are learning differences. Some are sensory processing differences, but they all have one thing in common. Our brains take in, process, and respond to the world around us in ways that don't always fit the mold. Now, being neurodivergent doesn't mean broken. It simply means different. And often it means bringing unique strengths to the table, if we're supported correctly. Now, early in my leadership journey, I quickly found out that I performed so much better under certain leaders than I did others. It wasn't until much later that I understood that the leaders I performed well for were the ones who allowed me to be my unique self and didn't try to make me conform to what I now know as neurotypical expectations. They held me to high expectations and standards, but they also offered tools and resources that help me understand how do I achieve those expectations. So what can neurodivergence look like in the workplace? Well, for somebody with ADHD, it might mean bouncing between ideas quickly, or hyper-focusing for hours, or struggling with time management, especially with boring or repetitive tasks. But it can also look like pulling off last-minute miracles, coming up with unique solutions and bouncing back quickly after disappointments. Now, for an autistic person, it might mean getting overwhelmed by background noise, missing subtle social cues, needing clarity in communication that others don't always think to give. But it can also look like finding patterns to help create processes, being detail-oriented, and helping to create a fair and just workplace. Now, for someone with dyslexia, reading a company email might take longer, but they also might be brilliant at visual design or strategic thinking. Neurodivergence is not a deficit, it's a different operating system. So neurotypicals operate like what we consider PCs, whereas neurodivergent, we operate like what we would consider Macs. We both get there, we just do it differently. Now, most workplaces are designed for one type of brain, the neurotypical kind, and that's where the disconnect starts. If you've ever experienced frustration with being told that you make too much eye contact, that was one of my problems, or maybe not enough eye contact, you aren't sure why we have to talk about the weather all day, and corporate jargon such as
"Let's circle back" or "use your best judgment"
cause you to break out in hives, chances are you've experienced this disconnect. So let's be real for a minute. Neurodivergence is not just a trendy label. It's not something people make up for attention, and it's not just about being quirky or distracted or liking quiet. It's about how we experience the world around us, often in ways that can come across as intense, or they can be misunderstood, or they can be just flat out ignored. When I was working at Walt Disney World, I struggled a lot with social cues. I really wanted to give people what they wanted from me, but I didn't understand what that undercurrent was. If you told me that everything was okay, then I was going to assume that everything was okay, unless you were doing something drastic like crying. But those subtle cues like maybe a downturned smile or your arms crossed, I wouldn't pick up on that. So when we're thinking about how we're going and navigating these systems, understanding that these systems weren't designed with us in mind. And sometimes we need to better understand the current system so that we can help them adapt the system to where we're at. Now, if you're neurodivergent, you may have spent years trying to mask your traits. We're going to have another video coming up soon about what masking is. So if you're not sure with a term, don't worry, we'll dive into it. But essentially, masking is trying to be what the situation demands. So you're looking around, trying to understand what others expect from you so that you can deliver it. Now, When we're not masking, we can be punished. We might have been called difficult or too sensitive, or we're bad with time management, or we're not a people person, when really we were just unsupported, possibly overwhelmed, possibly burning out from trying to fit in. But I want you to know, your brain isn't wrong. It's wired for something different, and that difference can be powerful. The neurodiversity movement invites us to stop asking, what's wrong with me, and start asking, what does my brain need to thrive? It gives us language to talk about what we've known for years, but maybe didn't have the words for. And it helps leaders rethink what a productive employee looks like. It helps neurodivergent professionals stop apologizing for who we are. Now, I'm not successful despite being autistic and having ADHD. I'm successful because, for the most part, I've learned how to work with my brain, not against it. Some days we're frenemies, but most days we're friends. And I want that for you too. So let me hear from you. Do you identify as neurodivergent? Are you neurodivergent curious? Are you wondering if maybe you're neurodivergent? Do you know somebody is, or you're leading somebody is, and you have questions about what that means and how you can best show up for them? If so, drop a comment. I want to hear from you, and I read every single comment that is done, whether it's through email, on one of my social platforms, or in YouTube. And if this video resonated with you today, stick around. A new video focused on the neurospicy workplace will come out on every Monday. Until then, don't forget, you got this. I'll see you next week.